back to my channel called Ruby Raven, and this is Jana speaking, your host. And today it is the last episode of the kitchen. We still do need a replacement for the hot plates because I didn't like the one that it came with. They were too modern for my taste. And I do want to make a hanging rack above the little table, the kitchen island that I have done myself. In this episode I'm going to work with copper wire and I will do some soldering again, hard soldering. So let's start with the hot plates. Once upon a time I did buy these little cooking plates. I do think they are made for a gas stove or gas hot plates. And I do like the shape. They look quite realistic to me. So I do want to use these ones. This is a dry fit of all the plates. And I do think I'm going to go with this arrangement of 5 ones. Inspired by the original hot plates, I'm going to use a wooden piece and place the metal cooking plates on top of it, or let's say more inside of it. Therefore, I do need to drill in some holes. I used the biggest drill I have, which was still too small, so I do have to use a file to make it even bigger. And after some sanding, I started to bend the copper wire. It has a diameter of 1 millimeter. So these are all the pieces for the main rack. There are more to come, but let's keep it simple for the first soldering action. Hard soldering is quite easy in theory, but you need some practice to make it properly. I do not have the practice, so let's start the practice right away. Okay, let's come back, no fun anymore. You do need some flux where you do want the solder to flow into. And this is the upper left corner there. And then you place a little piece of solder right next to it. It should be touching the wire. Then you take your torch and start heating up the wire, the whole wire. And then you slowly start to go even closer to the spot where you actually want to solder. And heat it up even more until you see a discoloration in the copper wire. It gets reddish, and then you start the solder flowing into the corner where I did put the flux. I do love exactly this little point of soldering. It is so satisfying. It is so beautiful how the solder moves, and yeah, well, I should be better at it, shouldn't I? So let's do the process one more time. Adding flux, adding solder, heating it up, and see the solder flowing. This is the end result, the pot holding rack for the hot plates. And now I need to put it into some acid to remove the fire stain. Now it looks very shiny. As I've already mentioned, I'm not very good at soldering. I tend to use way too much solder and it is sometimes not in the correct space. So I do need to take some of the solder off. How do you do it? With a file, with a lot of filing. And it is too shiny for my taste and for the kitchen. I do want it to look like it was actually used. So I'm using this blue liquid here. It is a fast patina. I leave it in there until I like the darkness. I do clean the surface and I do rub on the surface. So it looks like it was used. It was a bit shinier where I rub it, and it is darker where I just leave it. So it looks like it was used and cleaned and used and cleaned. I guess you know what I mean. And now it is time to paint the wood piece. And of course it will be the same color as the rest of the kitchen, beige. I needed several layers to get it really opaque. I do give it some sanding to even out all the layers of paint before I gloss it. And then I start to glue all the metal pieces in place, and I'm using super glue. From the kitchen I still have these little tiny knobs. I do love them. I I painted them in brass and now I'm adding it to the hot plates. And this is the final result of the hot plates. Now let's start with the hanging rack. I'm going to make it from the same copper wire that I've used for the hot plates. And the hanging rack only requires soldering on one single point. The rack needs a lot of hangers for all the pots and kitchen tools I do want to hang on. I make all these little hangers by myself from a little thinner wire. To connect both pieces of the hangers I need some copper chains and some hooks again, which I'm going to shape like an endless sign. Then I do connect both pieces by the chains, and of course I do add all the hooks. And here comes the final hanging rack. Now it's time to add it to the kitchen. I do drill in some holes in the wooden beams, and with the 3 remaining chains and hooks, I'm going to attach the rack to the kitchen ceiling. Over the years I've collected a lot of coppery pots and such, which I'm going to age in the same procedure as I have done it with a hot plate rack. After darkening them, I do give them a good rub, also with steel wool, and then they look old, used, but well maintained. Now they can finally go into the kitchen. And that's it! The kitchen is done, and now deserves a lot of love. Thank you for joining me today for the last episode of the kitchen series. I hope we're going to see you in the next project. Please hit the like button to support my channel or even consider to subscribe. See you next time. Bye bye bye.